Hello, I'm Laura Furiosi, divorced mother of 3, and I'm here with my mother, Lynette Galvin, with 35 years' experience in family law. You're listening to the Divorce Course podcast. Through our candid discussions, we hope to help you through your divorce or de facto separation. We will be answering the most commonly asked questions and covering the stages and steps that you will face on your way to freedom. Before you can have a property settlement, you need to go through the valuation process. In this episode, we're going to talk about the way to move forward to get things valued, who to talk to get valuations done, and what the process involves, and some of those questions that you might have in your head right now about valuations. Hi, Mum.
Hello, Laura. You have to have, hello, everyone. You've got to have a value. It sounds funny to have a valuation, but you can't divide the property till you know what the property's worth. Okay. Yeah. And so some things you'll agree on, but sometimes you have to go to these valuers to get an official or a formal expert opinion on what things are worth.
Now, before we go into the different types, like getting your stuff valued, your house valued, super valued, or your business valued, let's just talk about the process of deciding on who is going to do the valuing. How do you decide that?
That's a good point, Laura. So unless you're very friendly with each other, the usual process is one person nominates three valuers. So say it's to value a house, might be valuers who do valuations for banks, like there's Heron Todd White and there's a couple of other companies that do it for the banks. Or it might be that you're happy to get a real estate agent's appraisal, three of those. But whatever it is, the normal process is you send a list of 3 and the other person chooses one. And that makes sure that person that's been selected is independent, and you both agree really that you will accept their value.
So you shouldn't get a friend to do it or somebody's mate who knows such and such? No? Okay.
The minute we get a valuation proposal in and my client goes, but that's her cousin.
Okay.
Well, that's his cousin. Yeah.
Don't choose that person.
Yeah, don't do that because, how will they ever accept that value if they are suspicious of the person who did it? So you need to do it nice and clear and clean and fair.
Okay. Where do you find valuers? So I know you're saying the bank ones, but where do you go to like a second-hand shop, cash converters?
Just Google it. Yeah.
Okay.
So are we talking about specific ones now?
Yeah. So if you want someone to come and value the car, or if you want someone to come and value all your jewelry, or I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
Is there someone that just does everything?
No, I wish, Laura, we could just have one witness in a trial. Your Honour, this gentleman has valued the house, the car, the artworks, the jewellery, the boat, the caravan, and the timeshare at Hamilton Island. But no.
Okay.
So there's one group of people who are experts at valuing real estate, but if it's commercial real estate, it might be a different sort of valuers or agent. Mm-hmm. With cars, you know what? With cars, the court's accepting Red Book valuations now, so you can do them online, and you usually agree with each other on those. For stuff, you get like auction houses, or there's some people who do appraisals. The one we use a lot is All Assets Appraisal. I think they're all over Australia. They're pretty good. They'll value anything.
Okay. And you tell them that you heard about us on the Divorce Course podcast.
Please do.
Because they'll get all these phone calls.
Laura's shaking head at me.
They're going to get a lot of phone calls all of a sudden, because every time we mention anyone, they get a lot of calls.
Oh, dear. Yes.
Good one, Mum.
Oh, well. But they're good.
Yeah. So you get these people, just Google it, I guess. That's the great part of Google. You go and find a valuer for whatever it is that you're getting valued. Send 3 to your ex, and then they choose one.
When you send those 3 people or companies to your ex, be sure that you haven't then given all your power away to keep the momentum going. So what you do in that letter is say, if you don't choose one within 7 days, I'll choose one and we'll move forward.
Right. Yeah. Okay. There's a great one for the avoidant or the manipulative and controlling.
Absolutely.
Thanks for that.
They can't complain. They had a chance.
No. So you get those things valued. But how do you know, well, like what's the average cost of a valuer? Is that a bit of a hard
so valuing real estate can be quite expensive. So ask them what their costs are. And you would take that into account when you're compiling your list of people, okay, to send to the other side. You might even say the 3 that I nominate as a panel to value our house is this company, their phone number's this, and their costs are about that. This company phone number costs. So you've got to do some research, you know. And so it might be like $490, $500 for each property. It could be $1,000 for each property. So you need to know.
So you've figured that out. You've got the cost. You've got them to agree on one. You've booked them in.
Yeah.
If it's the house stuff, they're coming to value your, you know, golf clubs and furniture and stuff.
Coffee table.
Do they just come into your house? Like, how does that work? Or do you send them photos?
No. So they come into your house. You set up a time for inspection. And if they're valuing the things in your place and you're not at the house that they're valuing, they'll still come to your place and they go from room to room. It gives you the heebie-jeebies. And they write out this massive list. So I know more about my clients than I ever needed to know. By the time the list is compiled, they take photos of the coffee table and it's heartbreaking. But not everyone does that. With furniture, sometimes people just go, you know what, we're going to just divide it between ourselves. And I'll tell you what, this is what the court does. You, applicant, you make 2 lists of everything you've got and make them reasonably even because you, the respondent, get to choose one of the lists. So that'll often resolve things. Or you do a like for like I'll take the toaster, you take the jug, I'll take the microwave, and you can take the air fryer. I'll take the couch from downstairs.
So if you're amicable enough to divide the furniture up between yourselves, then you don't need a valuer.
No.
Or if it's like super expensive stuff, maybe you do.
Oh, you do. Like sometimes you say, look, most of our stuff is like early St. Vincent's de Paul but some of these things are late William the Conqueror and you know, Edwardian, and they need to be valued. So you might sort of say the rest of the Amart, but the rest of your, you know, the less expensive furniture is neither here nor there. But, you know, grandma's antique chairs need to be valued. That's okay.
So you make it a time. They come to your house.
Yeah.
They walk through your house. They look at your stuff. They take photos of your stuff.
Yeah.
Do they ask you, hey, where is this? Like, do they come in with a list?
Oh, only if the person on the other side's a real person. But sometimes the other person might say, look, I agree with the valuation, but you make sure you get that piano valued. And you go, well, you make sure you get your mountain bike valued. And so they might be specifically on the list that you give the value. Value the contents of the house, but make sure you get the mountain bike, make sure you get the piano, you know.
Right. Okay. All right. So they go through your house, they take photos, they leave.
They come up with a number. Yep.
So what do they do? Email you guys with
once they're paid, they'll email it to you. And so you might find that whoever's still in the house probably has more. They might have $15,000 worth of stuff.
Well, before you get to that, what do they email you?
A list with prices against each one and totaled up. So they'll say all the things in the applicant's place add up to $6,500. All the things in the respondent's place add up to $15,000. And if you're going to split the property pool 50-50, for example, then there's a difference there, isn't there, of $8,000. So maybe they have to pay you $4,000 cash to make up for the furniture, or they give you $4,000. Honestly, it's such a faff. It's not worth it really, unless it's something really spectacular.
So
if you go all the way to court trial and you can't agree, you have to have it valued.
Yeah. So all that work just to find out, they've got like $5,000 more than me. Like when you're paying a valuer, probably $2,000?
Yeah. Yeah.
So make sure if you are getting stuff valued, then it's worth getting it valued.
Yes. Otherwise agree.
It's just doing stuff for the sake of doing stuff. Yeah. Do you ever get any clients who do get stuff valued be shocked at the value of things, that they're not as expensive as they thought they were?
Yes, and the most common thing they say is, but insurance value is 45,000. I go, yes, but this is your second-hand shop, you know. And I always imagine a guy with his pencil going, "I'll give you $40 for your table, love."
Tell him he's dreaming.
Tell him he's dreaming. Yep. So it's a bit of a mug's game, that. And most commonly we say, we find that anyone sensible, the parties have already divided the contents of the house to their mutual satisfaction, and nothing needs to be done about it.
Can I ask a question then? Does that send like a little red flag to the judge if people don't sort out their furniture before they get to trial? Like does the judge go, oh?
Well, the judge will be having a very hard look at the clients and then an equally hard look at the lawyers.
Okay.
Because someone should have just said, "Oh, stuff it. Well, give us this and we'll call it quits."
All right. So that's the process of what if you don't agree with the values?
Tough.
And there's a good reason. Tough?
Well, pretty well tough. If you've had a panel properly given to you, or you've provided a panel and they've chosen one, the tacit thing is, as a single expert, is that you will agree with whatever they say because they're the experts. Now, sometimes there are valid reasons to challenge it, but almost never. And if there is a disagreement, there's a whole complicated process that I can't go through here of as how you get a supplementary opinion or a review of that valuation by someone else who says, "Oh, I've looked at his valuation, but I wouldn't have done that. I think it's more likely this." But once you put that in the mix, the judge says, "Well, what, am I supposed to choose one?" You've really muddied the waters. So, yeah.
All right. So that's stuff, right? So then the next step is valuing the house. And we have talked about this a lot in selling the house, getting the valuers. But so again, you get 3 valuers, same process?
Yep. Choose 3. Yep. Or real estate agents if you think you don't need a valuer.
Okay.
And you don't value the house if you're selling it, because the value of the house is what someone is going to pay for it. And so you just wait and see what they pay for it.
We do get asked a fair bit if they can have a property settlement before the house is actually sold. What do you say to those people?
Yep. Anything. We can do almost anything. You just do a formula. So you might say that the parties agree that the house will be sold and the proceeds of sale after payment of, say, the advertising costs, the mortgage and, whatever other little debts around, the rates, will be divided between the parties 60-40 in favour of the applicant, or 35-45. The thing with that is that if you're dividing other assets, sometimes people want to only divide the sale proceeds from the house so that one person gets a total of overall of 65% and one gets an overall of 35%. But that's a lot of maths. You can do that if you think you can work it out and someone works it out specifically for you. But there's a formula.
Maths or an Excel spreadsheet?
Well, yes, I've got hives now talking about Excel spreadsheets. But any formula. So we do formulas where A is this and B is that and C is that. People do that all the time. So you can do that. It'd be terrible if you waited until it was sold and then you tie the money up somewhere in trust while you work out the rules. So, actually, it's probably more often the orders are done before the place is sold.
Okay.
Yeah, because sometimes people can't agree to get the process started unless there's court orders.
So you don't need a valuer if you're selling the house, because obviously the value of the house will be what it's sold as. But if you are transferring it over, because we did an episode and I really, really want to keep the house, if you're transferring that over, you need to value it.
Yes, you do.
So a real estate agent or banks? I know we've talked about this trick before.
If it's our client, if it's you buying the house, get a bank valuation because they're always low. If he's getting the house, or the other person's getting the house, try to get real estate agent valuations because they want to sell the thing. Yeah, but that's just you didn't hear it from me. It's just a little tactic.
It's all a little trick. Okay, so you go and choose those people to value it. They value it. obviously, do they give you a little report what it's worth?
Oh, a fancy report. Most of it's pre-done, I think.
Yeah.
But they print out, like, it's got spiral binding and a plastic cover.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, how much does
around.
that cost? Does that cost a lot of money?
Yes, it can cost, I think, $500 to $1,000. Depends who you get to do it. And it'll have comparable sales in the area and say, this house sold for $650, but your house is a little bit better than that. So I think it's about $660 because it's not as good as the house that sold at $680.
All right. So you've got the house valued, you've got your stuff valued. What about super?
Most super doesn't need to be valued, which is lovely. Okay. It's just whatever the figure is. That's an accumulation account. But if you've got anyone with the defined benefit account or military super, invalidity payments, defined benefit means that it doesn't show on their super statement how much they're going to get when they retire because it's a percentage or worked out in accordance with their final wage just before they retire. And those ones need to be properly valued by a valuer.
By who?
By who? Well, funny you should ask.
You know you could find us on Instagram, Facebook and TikTok. We're there waiting for you right now. If you want to get more out of the Divorce Course, all you have to do is go to the Divorce Course Podcast at Facebook or TikTok or the Divorce Course on Instagram. There we share bite-sized pieces of information and bite-sized inspiration and motivation to help you through this difficult time. Come and join our community and let us know you've joined. We'd love to see you there. By who?
By who? Well, funny you should ask. There are a couple of companies that can do it. If you type in superannuation valuation in a search engine, they'll all come up. There are particular ones for the military supers because that's done in a particular formula that the Commonwealth Government has created, and they've got their own special rules. But most of the others will just be done. But people who do military supers will usually do the other defined benefit supers as well. So just choose a few valuers. They can range in value, $600 or more. There's a couple who do it for quite a lot less, but it's important to get those valued.
Do you need to get their choice of a valuer, or can you just get anyone to do it and don't need
Absolutely.
to send them
either a choice or a buy-in from them. So what I have done is there's, like, I know 3 of them. I put both their 3 names down, phone numbers, turnaround time, like how long before you get it back. But I know that if I include this one person, he's so much cheaper. They'll usually choose that. Or you can just say, look, I know, I sometimes as a lawyer just say to the other side, look, how about we use such and such because the fee is a lot less for these parties, and they might agree with that.
Okay.
There's less of a chance that you're a mate with the superannuation valuer than there is that you're a mate with a real estate agent.
This is true. I'm sure there's more of those than
there are definitely more of those.
Right. So if you've just got a normal super, though, you can just look at the balance.
Yep.
I did have a question sent through the podcast recently, and it was the values. Are they at the time of settlement or are they at the time that they were done? So if you get a value on your stuff and your house and the super, I don't know, and you paid to get it all done and it was like 3 months ago and your mediation or court is in 6 months, because houses change. I mean, the stuff doesn't change, I guess, unless it's wine. It might be worth more over a year. But how does it change? Like, where does the court see the rule for valuation amounts?
It's important to know this, and that is that the valuation is at the date of the trial. That's the date the court will look at. So at the date of the mediation. Now, if you go to mediation and your valuations are old, like say you've got a 6-month-old valuation on your household stuff, the desk, the chest of drawers, whatever, that's not going to change much. You can still go with that. Superannuation, the defined benefit fund may not have changed very much, but if it's been 6 months, might be worth getting an update. You can ask for an update. House prices are up and down all over the place. So whether something 6 months ago is still valid or 9 months ago is a matter between you both, and you might say, oh, I think we should get them valued again. Usually, if you're wanting to buy the house, you would hope it's gone down. If they want to buy it, they're going to get the house, you'd hope it would have gone up, but it is what it is. But it's at the date of trial. And I think what the court decided right at the beginning was that they can't be going back getting valuations as at July 2017 for something when the person whose name was also on the deed, say you've got two people on the property deed on the title record, one person's living in that house and it's 3 years later and you're trying to work out a property settlement, the court's not going to say, oh, it should be back what it was 3 years ago, because for the past 3 years you haven't had the benefit of your share in that house. If you had, if it's, you should, because your name's on there, if it's grown, you should benefit from that growth, So the courts, it's just a pragmatic thing too, I think, that it's just too hard.
So the values are as of the day of the mediation or as of the day of the trial.
Yes.
Does that mean you should think about getting the values done closer? Like if you feel like mediation's not going to be for a year, do it closer, or is it going really fast in the court system at the moment?
Well, mediation's as fast as you can get a mediator. So I think you'll want those valuations pretty early on. I think your first discussion with your ex, whether it's in writing or through your lawyers, is what values do we agree on? Can we agree that that furniture's worth this, or we've already divided? Can we agree that the block of land at such and such is this? And then you may not need to value things if you can agree on a price at a current date. But if you're getting closer to trial, you might think we'd better get some valuations. If you've got valuations, they do go stale. You can easily redo your red book because the car's a year older, do your red book checks. But you need to have up to date on the day you walk into the court, to the point that in mediations and in court, people are downloading their bank statements. So we've got the exact figure for that day, just for it. The whole of family law sometimes sounds a bit wishy-washy, and percentages and ish prices, ish this, and, it's 40,000 ish. But when it comes down to a court hearing, the court has a fair bit of precision in they call it identifying the property pool. And once that's sorted, everything flows.
So two things. One is, it's a good thing to note then, if you are waiting for a trial, saving up your pennies to have a great holiday means that the money you save waiting for the trial will be included in the property settlement.
Yes, my dear. Yes.
So don't
save up.
Don't be saving too much money in that time. Use your money as you need it. Don't be scrimping and saving, because you're just going to have to share it anyway. Is that basically the truth?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I have had some listeners who have said, I've been saving all my pennies. I'm going to go on a big holiday after this divorce, but then they'll have to show that bank account, and that will be included, and they'll probably have to give half. So that's just a little reminder to anyone out there who might not have thought of that. The other one is shares, Mum. We didn't discuss shares.
Oh, yes.
So the shares are the same? You don't really need a valuer for that.
They're easy. Well, I don't ever put in a document like for mediation or whatever. I just put how many shares there are, and then you can easily look them up on the Australian Stock Exchange, ASX, and find out what today's value is, and then it's per share, and then it's a simple multiplication, and you can come up with the precise figure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What if they don't agree to pay the valuer? So you've done that, you got the valuation, they've given you the bill, and your ex is like, you know what, I'm not going to pay it. Screw you. What happens then? Is there any solution?
Well, if you want to use the valuation, you'll have to pay the valuer, because they won't usually release it until they're paid. However, you can ask for that to be reimbursed, particularly you will have got their buy-in in writing that they were going to go 50-50, so you'll ask for that at trial or in your final property settlement, or you might let it go, but it might be something, I make this offer and I won't come after you for half the cost of the valuations, even though you promised.
Okay, so you can use it as a negotiation tool in the end. Sheesh kabobbers. All right. So I know we haven't talked about business valuations, but I think I'm going to leave that, Mum, because we've done an episode on business and divorce.
Yes.
So I will put that in the show notes for people to listen to.
There's a lot
where we
to
go
say.
in depth into that, because we do talk about how they can skew the valuations. Because like you always say, Mum, you've never come across anyone who's said, oh, my business has increased significantly since separation and it's worth so much more than it was when we were together. That doesn't really happen, does it?
No, they seem to always flounder and be on the verge of bankruptcy.
Yes.
And sometimes I think maybe the person who runs the business is distressed and depressed and can't run it well. Yep. Sometimes I don't think that's why it's not doing well.
So if you want an in-depth episode on that, go and listen to Business and Divorce. I'll put the link in the show notes.
But all of it's general advice. If you've got businesses, you really need to go and see a lawyer. But just be a bit wary if they say words like forensic accountant, because that is a lot of money.
Okay. All right. Well, people do ask that. They go, should I get a forensic accountant?
Yes. So do you want to know what one is?
Yes, sure.
Yeah. So it's an accountant who trawls through the books and looks for anomalies. Suddenly he's spending this much on overseas holidays, or no, suddenly he's claiming these deductions for conferences, and they'll check to make sure there really were conferences and stuff like that. So that's like they're as keen on getting into the business as an auditor is, I guess.
Okay.
But gee, it's an expensive thing. If your suspicion is there's 20,000 cash hidden somewhere, it might not be worth it.
If you're high conflict, or
you're high conflict,
hopefully you're not high conflict.
Not our listeners.
If your ex is high conflict and you're going through this valuation process, I guess it's a positive in a way to get an independent person to value everything.
Too right.
Are there any pitfalls people should be watching out for?
I don't think people should agree to a percentage split before they know the figures. So sometimes people go, we'll go 50-50, but we'll find out what the valuers say the prices were. Just leave that away for a while. That's one pitfall. Otherwise, just make sure you do get their buy-in at the beginning so they can't chicken out of this valuation that you're getting. And it's not wasted money. You know, and if they won't agree, you may have to go to court and ask the court to appoint an expert witness who will do the valuations.
I was about to ask that. What if you're going to mediation and they won't agree to get a value? Can you just go and get it done anyway? Can you get the house valued without their permission?
And I guess that's the best evidence that anyone will have to deal with. If there isn't a joint figure, in the absence of anything else, if you've got at least one valuer's opinion, even if it's not agreed to, and as long as it's not your Auntie Joan or someone that, you know, is in the business. As long as it's independent, and even if you've had to get it by yourself, it's better than nothing. And if your ex hasn't got anything to produce, well, that becomes the value for the purposes of the mediation at least.
Okay, so if someone is listening today, they've got mediation coming up, their ex has been a pain in the bum and won't agree to getting anything valued, go and do your own valuations, general advice only, and then turn up to the mediation with at least your understanding of what the property is worth.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's a waste of time.
Of course. Yeah. Get your own legal advice, of course. Okay. So that's high conflict. What about manipulative and controlling? What things do we need to watch out for? Do they argue the valuation prices?
They hide things.
Hide stuff. How do you stop that?
I don't know. Everything you've got so much more valuable than anything they've got. And you'll have heard my story about the coffee tables, 2 identical coffee tables. And the person said that the one in their possession was only worth $20, but the one in their ex's possession was worth $100. So there's that skewing. And as they'll go through again with the valuations, but these valuers, particularly furniture valuers and house valuers, they're quite aware that you're a manipulative and controlling person is going to try and manipulate and control them. Oh, look at these cracks. Have you noticed this? We'll probably have to get that replaced.
Right. So the valuers are aware of some of those kind of tricks.
Yeah.
What if the valuer turns up and goes, oh, I'd like to see, I don't know, the piano. and they go, what piano? I don't have a piano.
Yeah.
What do valuers do then?
Well, they just write, ask to see the piano, and I was told there's no piano here, and then you need to produce photos of the piano and proof of the piano, and then you can have a wild guess at the value, or get someone to say, oh, well, if that piano is worth about this much, and then when you do your table, put it in at that value, and then, you know, let them explain why there isn't one. Yeah, there's a bit of that goes on.
So there's a bit of game playing that happens.
Yeah, at every turn with a manipulative and controlling person, they'll just try to get every point. But it's no worse than they did during a relationship, and you're used to it. Just keep going.
Does it help, like with the mediator, where you say, hey, these are my trigger points? When it comes to the valuer, do you say, hey, I think they're going to try and hide these things, or do you just let the valuer do their job?
You let the valuer do their job. Normally instructions to valuers are in writing. And so you'd be very reluctant to say, my ex is going to hide these things. But just say, could you pay particular attention to the valuation of the piano, or could you value particularly, as well as the rest of the things, could you value the piano in the downstairs room, this, my cello, my whatever, first edition, this, you know, just list it. And then you've identified it, flagged it, and maybe even attach a photo of it. And if it's not there, they'll just say it's not there.
Okay. What about amicable? Is there anything you need to worry about with the valuer?
No, you might not need a valuer if it's amicable. Okay. You should be able to sort your stuff out, shouldn't you? And you know, if it's amicable with the house, you should be able to send a few real estate agent things, or look on one of the online realestate.com, look at the recently sold properties and say, I reckon the place is worth about, what, $750? What do you think? And they'll go, oh, yeah, $750 to $770. All right, let's make it $760.
Yeah. Okay. You know. Lastly, Mum, avoidant. So valuers and avoidant people. How does that
valuers? Poor old valuers. So people will, like, if the person's got to come and value the house, the avoidant might not be home. Manipulative and controlling person might not be home either. Oh, that's not convenient. Sometimes you have to have a curbside valuation because they can't get in to the house, but just sort of plow on regardless. And it's their own fault if the valuation's higher than it would otherwise have been if they didn't let a valuer in to see it. And you say, the valuer, these are photos I've had from when I was there. That's the condition of the house. You know, they can get floor plans off the council websites.
Okay. And then again, same with the stuff around the house. You can send photos and say, this is what was, this is.
Remember, we always tell our listeners to video before they leave.
Yeah.
If you can do it safely, and you can turn those into screenshots and stills and have a comprehensive list of what's what.
I did hear when the military move people, one of my friends just moved and she's dating a military guy. They take an itemized list of absolutely everything in the house. I
love it.
Every single little thing that goes into a box is itemized. So if you're in the military, or if you're dating a military person or married to or whatever, that may be helpful as well.
It's a dream for me. It's a dream for me. It's so precise and so detailed, you know, and it'll be like things like one lamp, broken leg, you know, or, you know, 2 bowls chipped. So, but, you know, who needs to get down into that sort of detail when you're doing a split up? But it's kind of there, and it just solves a lot of problems, you know.
That's true. And if they're
sometimes people allege the other person has hundreds of thousands worth of stuff, really, when they don't, you know.
Right. Well, Mum, I think we're going to leave the valuation there. Okay. I'm wishing anybody the best of luck if they're going through this process right now. It could definitely sound expensive and stressful. I know someone said that they were really upset and nervous about someone coming to their house.
Yes.
Oh, yes, Mum. One more thing that you want to pop in about values.
Jewellery valuations. I'm sorry to say, but the best way to get a valuation of that seems to be to go to Cash Converters for a rough idea of what they'd give you for it. But if you're having all the other stuff valued as well, you can use one of those firms. And there are specialist jewellery valuers, but I think we all know that those valuations you get when you get a piece of jewellery don't really reflect in actual dollars.
Not what you're going to get from cash converters.
No, it's not. It really is more your cash converters sort of thing, your second-hand dealer, Facebook Marketplace second-hand dealers.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, anyone who's going through it, we wish you the best of luck. If you are interested, go and look at those other episodes where we talk about the business value, your business in divorce, but also some of the property episodes we've done. And of course, if you're doing our course, you can go to the property module and go and do all of that there. So thank you, Mum, for all your info, and have a wonderful day, everybody.
See you later, Laura. Bye, everyone.
See ya. If you found this podcast helpful, we'd love it if you could rate, review and subscribe. By doing so, you are spreading the word to help someone else just like you. Lynn would like to remind you that this podcast is general advice only, and you should always get legal advice in relation to your particular situation. And remember that the Australian laws may have changed since recording.